Happy New Year, and to start the year off, I'm going to ask a really dumb question. Is drawing dark-skinned characters hard? Genuinely asking because I don't seem to have a problem with that, personally, but I've seen a lot of advice on the internet, and some of it's very vague or not very helpful. Some stuff works to me, some don't, and I'm pretty much just going to be like venting because there's some things online that people do that I don't quite agree with, and I'm going to have some opinions in this video, and I wanted this video to be separate because there was some things I touched upon in the art commentary stuff that I hate, and there was some people who made comments and I panicked because they kind of jumped ahead assuming I was seeing something that I did not mean at all, and so I kind of freaked out and I was like, oh, when I'm writing in a comment, I'm not really getting my point across properly. Sometimes when I talk I can't get my point across properly. I just hope that people understand what I'm saying. So yeah, this video is just gonna be a bit rambly near the end when I'm talking about stuff like that. But anyway, here's some things that I personally don't think is very helpful when making diverse characters. I don't like these. I think they're great for beginners or people who's just doing a very basic character sheet, but the skin tone swatches or skin tone sheets don't help me because it's the darker colours at the bottom. That could be Gwen Stacy in a dimly lit room in Spider-Verse, so, or Ryan Gosling in any other type of sci-fi film. It's yeah, it's great at first, but when you have characters who's in dark cornered rooms or you have darker characters in light type of rooms, all of a sudden these swatches aren't 100% guarantee. Next up is color swatching from real life photos, and I basically took some swatches from two actors, two different varied skin tones, but at a glance, a quick glance, these two look very similar. One's more saturated than the other. But these two are Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds. And I know people's gotta be saying, well, duh, it's kind of obvious that they're both kind of different and that's kind of dumb. But people have actually brought up another thing that's also an issue, which is pen tablets and your phone screens and a laptop, and that all three screens are different and it's very annoying. It's more brighter saturated than the other, and sometimes your laptop screen is very dull and kind of makes your characters look very ashy. It's been very annoying. I've basically been drawing a character, and when I look at my pen tablet and I look at my laptop, I'm like, crap, which one is the correct one? So when I showed the palette there and said one was saturated more than the other, sometimes that's not very obvious on a laptop than it is on your phone or your touchpad, and a lot of people have been using that excuse that their pen tablets are the reason why some characters look more ashy when they post it on Instagram, and the tablets kind of exaggerate and make things more saturated and brighter than it actually is. Something that's been giving me anxiety because I've been drawing a lot of illustrations and practicing a lot, and when I posted stuff online I kind of thought, crap, what if it looks inaccurate? And a lot of people online, when I googled it and said which one's more correct, is it the phone, is it your laptop, is it the screen tablet? Should I make the illustration match my laptop screen and try and make it all the same to have to toggle stuff? And they said majority of people are on the phones anyway, and the phone and the screen tablet match, and so it's better to go by the tablet than it is to go by your laptop. So I was like, oh, thank God. But still, I used an example of my own illustration, and this is how it came out, and yeah, it is actually a thing, and it's really frustrating. People use that excuse that the phone, the screen tablet makes things saturated. I do tend to believe them because it's happened to me a lot. Okay, so what do I recommend? Well, personally, for me, I think it'll be better to use models as references of how skin colors look in different types of lighting, especially actors. They're the best because it's the same model in different types of room and lighting. People like Will Smith, Zendaya, Whoopi Goldberg, and Queen Latifah and Chris Tucker especially. Actors are better because they're in different genres of movies. If they're in a romantic comedy, they have warm tone lighting, etc. Or in sitcom series, they have the very standard lighting. Or if they're in a supernatural sci-fi thing, they have neon lights. And you have basically different types of colors to work with, etc. But models on Pinterest, especially random models, all of their skin tones vary differently. You have people who are in between, and you have people who are more darker than others, and if you try to do OC, or if you try to do fan art of someone, it's very inconsistent. That's why actors are better, because you get to see them in thousands of shots of different lighting for every single type of scene that they've ever done, and it's there's more references there than it is on just one random picture on Pinterest. The next thing is color theory, and yeah, that gets me when people use that as an excuse as well and basically say, oh, this person can't draw shit, they just need to learn color theory, and that sounds easy, but then people online basically say, here, this color, this muddy brown, it's actually blue. That's color theory. And I'm like, what? And then they say things oh, is the dress black and blue or is it gold and white? Color theory. And another one on Twitter is going around about this shoe. and they're saying, is it pink and white? I'm like, it's not pink and white, that's blue and green. It's not, it's a pink and white shoe. And people's like, oh, color theory. It's like, people just use color theory, but then don't explain or break it down at all. They basically just slap that on, and I'm sitting there thinking, it's literally like saying it's magic, and don't quite help people understand color theory at all, because it's like, well, like, I'm 27 and I'm even looking thinking I've been drawn my whole life, and even I do not understand how some of this stuff works. It's so bizarre. So when you apply that to dark skin colors where people are trying to do the best they can, and then they just get slapped with it's color theory, it's not very helpful. It's kind of vague, and it kind of just makes you think, okay, that was useless. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing until someone actually gives me good advice, you know? And it's even worse when some people online actually do draw like really good characters of all skin types, and they do not know color theory. They even admit it. They're like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just slapping colors together and see what looks nice and see what looks like harmonious and everything. So that just makes it even more redundant and pointless. And so it's like, okay, let's just completely guess what we're doing, you know, and hope for the best. And also, I just started uni, and I had a university teacher who just told me that color doesn't really exist. It's because of our corns and our eyes and everything. We're kind of like perceiving color in a certain way, which is why ultraviolet's like a difficult one to use. But she basically said, if you stare at this red dot for a while and you look away and you have that after flash, the color of that after flash in your eyeball and everything, that is the complementary color. So what did we all see? Green is red's complementary color. Google says green is red's complementary color, but it wasn't, because when we looked away, it wasn't green, it was blue. And she even said that blue is red's complementary color. I shit you not, she told me this in a color theory class for university, and I'm thinking, what the fuck, and all of that stuff. But the thing is, we do tend to pair red with blue more than we do pair it with green. Like, yeah, sure, Viridian green with red, kind of like Merida from Brave, that kind of looks great, but majority of the time we never really put the two colors together, because like they don't really look great all the time. We always pair red with blue majority of the time, you know? I'm rambling. My point is that what I recently learned is that if you basically remove color and you keep them in the grey tone values of like how dark it is, like Miles Morales from Spider-Verse, I wanted to draw a fan art of him as blue, but I was like, oh, if I suddenly get the color, make it blue, it just doesn't look right. Either his color lightens or darkens, or it doesn't look consistent. I was like, I want it to still be the same. So I basically color picked his original color key, like from Spider-Verse and everything, made it grey, and then moved it to the color that I wanted it to be. And so it basically stayed the same even when I changed the swatch. So if I decided halfway through, oh, I don't want his skin to be blue, I want it to be pink, and if I have Gwen and Miles and had them both pink, they would still look like their original skin color, just with a pink filter on, or if they were in a pink room or something. Like, Miles would still look dark and Gwen would still look light, and just by using grey tones like that was very helpful. And I think I also saw someone on Instagram do a similar tutorial on it. I just can't remember who they are, but yeah, I actually found that very helpful, because if you make an OC, at least that way, if you're deciding to do a color key, some people do overlays and they do multiplies and they put colors like on top of something, but sometimes like that doesn't really work. It makes it too dark, or they don't really keep it consistent, or sometimes like they kind of lose the character. It's like sometimes like with color theory, as I said, you have to like paint the character in that type of scenario without using things like overlay, because sometimes it doesn't give you the direct result you want it to. So by removing color, going back to basics to black and whites and greys and everything, and build up to color, it actually works out pretty well. And it's something that's definitely worked for me. I don't know if it'll work for you guys, but it's just some advice. And leading up to that, there's also composition of how you put the colors together, and I can't really describe it, so I'm going to show some pictures on like the screen. So some people online have been taking anime edits and blackwashing them, and I know some people hate that phrase, but that is kind of like how a lot of people know what it is. Like, at the end of the day, when I was on Tumblr, people called it race bending. They basically took a character who was normally white and made them darker, and I'm not bothered. Personally, I don't really care, like, if someone takes an edit and does it, because, like, again, that'll make me a hypocrite, because, like, as a kid, I took Sonic the Hedgehog screenshots, I changed them. I took Naruto screenshots, I changed them. Everyone made their own RPCs, and people called them recolored insert characters, etc., and people called them RPCs or NPCs, etc. And recolors was like a thing that we did all the time. It's nothing new. So, but a lot of people call it blackwashing, and I just don't know, like I know people like really disagree with it, but it is kind of like how a lot of people know what it is type of thing. It's like, if I called it race bending, not many people call it race bending. I'm just saying, I see a lot of people, regardless of skin color, call it blackwashing, and basically like that's how everyone knows what it is. Like that's how they refer it to. If they did call it something else, then sure, but it's like that's mostly what it's called. So anyway, someone online basically took a Sailor Moon edit, made her skin darker again with the speed paint I got in the background. I don't really care about that, but personally I just find this type of stuff lazy, and I just don't like it. Visually, I mean, looking at the picture, it just doesn't look right, so I'm just gonna turn it like remove the colors and make it black and white and show you an example of like what I'm trying to say. So at least with this, it's kind of more obvious what the problem is. It's the fact that there's only one area that's really dark, while everything is very light and oversaturated, and so your eyeball is kind of ping-ponging, and the focal point doesn't really look like a great focal point. It's basically composition of how you layer all the stuff together. So I did another edit to see like how I would do it if I was like changing the character, or personally I wouldn't really edit something, I would just redraw it myself. What I'm trying to say is that when it comes to the original character Sailor Moon, she has a color key, and they personally, especially in the 90s, basically made character sheets to like pair colors to see what was complementary to that certain skin type. And if you gotta change the skin color, when you look at the scene that was made with the original color key. If you go change something, you're gonna have to like change other things to make it more cohesive, and basically try to redirect the focal point back to the face, because you kind of think, oh, if you just gotta change the skin color but leave the rest like very bright and pastel, and you don't match the other things to make it more thingy, it's more like, it's what happens like when you're on a computer and you get a color and it kind of has that warning because it's way too bright, and it gets to the point where your eyes will not look at it. It turns out that sometimes your eyes kind of look at everything but the dark object, or vice versa. If something's bright, you end up looking at everything else. That's why it's more composition than color theory, because it's basically trying to redirect everything back to the character, the silhouette. I hope to God that I'm making sense about this and it doesn't sound like I'm rambling, but yeah.